We'll start again with chapter 18. Perek Yud Ches, chapter 18, Pasuk Aleph. We actually were up to Pasuk Vav, but we were up to verse 6. We'll start with verse 1 just to have some continuity. This chapter 18, starts with, right after David, the young man, kills the giant Goliath. And he brings his head to Shaul to show that he defeated Goliath. And he has a conversation with Shaul, and when David finishes his conversation with Shaul, which basically he said, how can I have not encountered this Orel, this person who was uncircumcised, who was Magadeh from Macharef Hashem, who denigrated and mocked the name of God. And I went with the help of Hashem and I felled the giant. And when David finished his conversation with Shaul, they brought him into Shaul. And the soul of Yonasan cleaved, was tied to the soul of David. And he loved David. Yonasan loved David like he loved himself. And we asked the question, why all of a sudden was Yonasan so enamored of David that he clung to him and he found an eternal bond that he bonded with David? What was the reason he bonded with David so strongly after David killed Goliath? And we said, as an answer to this question, that when Goliath for 40 days went into the valley, looked up at the arrayed camp of Israel, he was challenging one man to emerge from the soldiers of the army of Israel, and particularly he was directing himself to Shaul, because Goliath was of huge stature. And who is the tallest? Mishichmo ulamala mikol ha'am? Who is head and shoulders above all of the people, not the shampoo? Who is head and shoulders above all of the people? Shaul HaMelech. So he was challenging Shaul to come down and fight. And Shaul was afraid to engage Goliath because he knew that the Ruach Hashem was sor mi'alav, that the spirit of Hashem that would have given him the strength to overcome the giant had removed itself from him because of his sins. So Shaul was like moribund. You know what moribund means? He was frozen in space. He couldn't move. And who instead of Shaul should have come down to fight Goliath? Jonathan. Was Yonasan afraid of the Pelishtim? No. What did Yonasan do by himself? He attacked the Matzah Pelishtim single-handedly, and he said, Ein la'atzor ma'Hashem miloshia im barav im b'ma'at. There's nothing holding back Kadosh Baruch Hu from saving the people, whether it be one person or a whole army. And therefore, if I'm going in the ways of Hashem and I'm going on the mission of Hashem, I'm going to fight the enemies of the Jewish people, I have no fear and I can attack all by myself. What did that show? Yes. That when Shaul refused to Shaul refused to wait for Shmuel, when Shmuel told him, wait for me before you bring the sacrifice and before you engage the enemy, and what happened? Shaul's meager army began to desert him because they said there are 30,000 Philistine soldiers arrayed against us, and if we stand still, they'll surround us and they'll kill us. We need to move. When you have a smaller force, you don't stand still, you keep moving. Because if you don't, they surround you and they kill you. So therefore the army and the soldiers of Shaul's army kept telling him, move, get out of here. We must go to another position. And Shaul said, no, we were told to wait for Shmuel. But at the end he relented and he moved before Shmuel got there. Said Shmuel, because of that, God regrets having made you the king. So now, here comes Yonasan. His father's afraid to come down and fight Goliath. He's going to go and fight Goliath single-handedly, himself, just like he did last time to fight all by himself. And what happened when he fought by himself last time? Shaul almost killed him. His own son. Why? Because he showed him up. He showed that you can attack an enemy with one soldier and you don't have to wait. And he should have waited for Shmuel like Hashem told him to. And he didn't. And therefore, Yonasan was sitting there and going, I should say, out of his mind. Chomping at the bit, as we would say, wanting to go down and fight Goliath. But he knew that if he would go down and fight Goliath, again, he would upstage his father. And as a result, he was afraid to go. All of a sudden, this young shepherd man comes along.
Sorry to interrupt, Rabbi Kowalsky. I just wanted to give this to you on behalf of the Bet Midrash, all the Talmidim. Thank you very much for all the investment in the Shiurim. Big Yeshar Koach.
Thank you very much. It's unnecessary, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this holy base Midrash.
Simcha Rabba. Purim Sameach. Thank you.
Purim Sameach. Thank you very much. Very nice. Oh, look at this. It's all inscribed. Thank you very much. Okay, anyway, so here's Yonasan afraid to go down and fight because he doesn't want to upstage his father. Comes along David, and David goes down and fights and defeats Goliath and erases the denigration and the mockery of the army of Israel. So now Yonasan says, oh, David saved me from having to go down and fight Goliath. And therefore his soul bonded with David. He loved David. He couldn't get over the fact that David redeemed him and saved him from having to show up his father once again. So they bonded. Vayichras Yonasan. Well, first of all, it says, Vayikocheu Shaul v'yomahu v'lo nasonu l'shem b'beis David. Remember now, David was the harpist who played the music to assuage the depression of Shaul, and he would go and play for Shaul when he was depressed, and then his spirits would lift and he would go back to tending sheep for his father, and then he would come back to Shaul, and he kept going between the two places, Beit Lechem and Givat Shaul, where Shaul was the king. So anyway, then after David slays the giant, Shaul takes him and he does not allow him to go back home. We'll see soon. He's going to make him the head of his army. Vayichras Yonasan v'David bris, and they make a bond, David and Yonatan. B'havaso so kinafsho, because Yonasan loved him like his own soul. Vayispashet Yonasan es hamil, and Yonasan took off his cloak, Asher olav, which was upon his shoulders, on his body. Vayitnei David, and he gave it to David. Umadav, and his uniforms. Vad charbo, and even his sword. Vad kashto, and his bow. Vad chagoro, and his belt in which he girded his sword. He gave everything over, all the accoutrements of leadership, everything that would show that Yonasan was a champion of the army of his father Shaul. He gave it to David. What was this? An indication. Yonasan understood that ultimately David would be the king of Israel. David would succeed Shaul as the next king. Now the Ramban in the Chumash has a very interesting statement there. He asked the question, why did Hashem pick to anoint Shaul? David was already of age. You know, there are stories of kings in Israel, which we learned in Malachim, who were 7. Shlomo was 12 when he became king. David was already probably about 18 or 20. He could have become king. Why did Hashem pass over David and give it to Shaul? Because it wasn't the time for David to be the king. Okay? But Shmuel had already anointed David at this time. And he knew that he understood now that David was to be the next king, so he gave over the mantle of leadership. And David went out wherever Shaul would send him, whatever mission it would be. Yaskil, and he was successful. And Shaul appointed David to be the head of the army. And everybody in the nation was happy about this. All the soldiers were happy. Even the servants of Shaul, say for instance, even Avner ben Ner, who was Shaul's general, he was happy that David was now, so to speak, the commander-in-chief of the army. Vayibabawam v'shuv David mi'akosas ha'pelishti. And then they came to Jerusalem, or not to Jerusalem, they came to Givat Shaul, where they were returned from the battle. They made a parade when they returned from the battle. They were successful. The Pelishtim fled. Goliath was killed. They chased the Pelishtim. They probably inflicted great casualties on the army of the Pelishtim. And now they're returning back home from the battle. And David was coming with them, Mehakosas HaPelishti, after he slew the Philistine, after he slew Goliath. Vatetzena Hanashim, Mikol Arei Yehuda, Mikol Arei Yisrael. Yeah, Mikol Arei Yisrael. And the women came out, there's a parade, everybody's coming home. Well, what do they do like after victory in Europe and after victory in Japan and the United States? They made big parades. They welcomed all the soldiers home. They're welcoming all the soldiers home. Loshir, they were singing in praise and in gratitude to the army, and they had these musical instruments. The Kras Shaul, and Shaul, of course, was leading the procession, the victorious king returning. Bitufim, with drums of B'simchot, V'shalishim, with happiness and with other musical instruments. Vatanena hanoshim hamesachakos, and all the rejoicing women raised their voices. Vatomarna, and they said, Hikar Shaul ba'alafav. Shaul slew in the thousands. But David, the rivabosa, but David slew in the tens of thousands. So now this parade turns into a disaster for Shaul. Why? Because now the people are praising young David over Shaul. Vayichar l'Shaul, ma'od, and Shaul gets very angry. Vayera be'enav hadavar hazeh, it was very bad in his eyes, this fact. Vayomer, and he said, Naslu David ribavos, they are attributed tens of thousands to being defeated by David. V'li naslu ba'alafim, and on mine victories, they're limiting to the thousands. Got jealous. V'od lo achamelucha, why don't they just call him king already? In other words, he realized that David was much more popular than him. The people were ascribing greater victory, greater strength, greater skill as a warrior to David. And Shaul says, why don't you just make him king already? Tongue in cheek. Of course, he didn't mean that.
Who was prime minister before Shaul?
Well, was it Rabbi? I don't remember. Who remembers? No, somebody else who didn't amount to
because
it.
being a good soldier,
Right,
very
all the
useful in
soldiers.
our country.
Oh, of course, all of them are soldiers. The only one who wasn't was
Eisenhower.
Perez. Perez wasn't a soldier, but Yigal Amon, all these guys were soldiers. They were all soldiers.
Right.
Vayi Shaul oyein es David. And Shaul put his eyes on David. He kept an eye on David. He was now watching David like a hawk. Mehayom ahu v'hola, from that day on, he was suspicious that David had aspirations to become the next king. He was suspicious that the people would easily replace him with David, and therefore he kept his eye on David to see if David would take any steps to assert himself to be king. Pasuk Yud. Vayimi Mocharas. And the next day, after this great parade where Shaul was really dejected, Vatitzlach ruach Elokim ro'ah el Shaul. And the Spirit of God, meaning depression, descended on Shaul. He did not look very keenly towards the future. Vayisnabe b'toch habayis. Now that literally means, and he prophesied in the midst of his house. But the Mefarshim say that, what is it? He was mumbling and walking around troubled, mumbling to himself about his pending ascension of David. But David David is there playing to try to rejuvenate his spirits.
Excuse me. Michal had already been given to him?
Nein. Noch nicht. Not yet. Soon. You're all invited to the chasna. Anyway, every day David would play for him and try to revive his spirits. And and Shaul had a spear. He was there in depression. He was mumbling to himself. David was trying to revive him, and Shaul had a spear in his hand. Vayotel Shaul Sachanis. And Shaul took the spear and threw it at David. Vayomer, and he said to himself, Akeh David and Bakir, I'm going to throw my spear so strongly that David will get pinned by it to the wall. It'll go right through him and pin him to the wall. He wanted to kill him. Vayisav David mipanav hamayim. And by coincidence, David's playing his harp, and he's not even paying much attention to what Shaul's doing. And 2 times Shaul threw the spear at him, and 2 times David happened to just turn away, bow down, do something, and it missed him. Trump. That's right. Vayiro Shaul l'fnei David. And now Shaul got really frightened that God is intervening. God is saving him. I had a great shot at him. I threw my spear. I should have killed him. I should have pinned him to the wall. And for some reason, something dropped. He looked. He did. Something made him turn away, and I missed. So now he knew that Hashem was intervening. Ki hoya Hashem imo. God was with David. Umeim Shaul sor. And from Shaul, God had turned away. No longer was he successful with his intentions. Even if he had an intention where he was standing a few feet away from Shaul, from David, and he had a spear, and he threw the spear, it should have hit David and pierced his heart, pinned him to the wall, it missed. Vayisirehu Shaul me'ima. And Shaul says, I can't have this guy in my presence anymore. He has to go. And he says, I can't get rid of him because he's very popular. But I don't want him in my entourage. I don't want him sitting near me. He's going to drive me crazy. So here he took David and demoted him. David was, in between times of playing music for the king, he was the head of the army. Now he made him an officer of 1,000 men. Took him off of his leadership of the whole army and made him officer of 1,000 men. However, the soldiers in the field who were going into war, they listened and they followed David. He went out and he came in before the nation, meaning he was the leader of the soldiers of the army of Shaul, notwithstanding his demotion by the king. The people, the soldiers knew Hashem imo, God was with him. B'chol Rechavia, still in every way that he turned, he was successful. They followed David. Next passage, David. Vayi David l'chol Rechav maskil, and David, wherever he turned, in any way he did, he was successful. Whatever he did, any action he took turned out to be the best action. It was very successful. Hashem imo, and God was with him. Vayar Shaul, asher hu maskil mod, and Shaul gets back reports. Of course, remember now, he's keeping an eye on David. He has, even though removed him from his inner circle, he has spies reporting back to him. What in the world is this young man doing? Is he making any move to depose me? And Shaul sees, meaning it's reported to him by his officers, that David is maskil mod, he's extremely successful. While Yogar in front of, and now he gets even more frightened from David. I don't know what to do with him. I keep him in my inner circle. He drives me crazy to look at him. I put him outside. I demote him. He rises to the top. Whatever he does, he's superior. He's up there. He's at the top. B'chol Yisrael Yehuda oyev es David. All of the army, all of the people, the women are singing his praises. The soldiers are following him into battle and singing his praises. He was the one that took them out to battle and brought them home for battle, and whatever strategy he employed or whatever strategy he suggested was successful. And so Shaul is going deeper and deeper into depression, deeper and deeper crazed and paranoid by this notion that David is going to succeed him and not his son.
In the meantime, the Philistines
are reeling. Their champion was beheaded in front of them. Their army was routed and defeated. They retreated in a rout, and they're not about to come back into battle so fast right now anyway.
Didn't you start the lesson today asking why Shaul was chosen first?
Yes, why was Shaul chosen? Okay, that's a question we have a lot of times. For instance, even a bigger question. When God punishes Shlomo HaMelech, as you remember, from the Sefer Malachim in the Book of Kings, God chooses through Achia Hashiloni, the Navi, to anoint who? Yerovam ben Avat, the arch sinner throughout the Tanakh. If ever there is an example of a sinner, he's compared to Yerovam ben Avat, the arch sinner. Chote, he was a sinner, umachtias harabim, and he caused the majority of the people to sin. He is the arch sinner. God chose him. How do we understand that? How does God save Shmuel when he's dying of dehydration? When he's dying of dehydration, God, the Malachim say, let him die. His children were destined to give us a lot of trouble. Ad hayom hazeh. Why didn't you just let him die, God? Why did you let him live? Says the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ba'asher hu sham. I judge a person as he is at the moment. I don't look to what future is going to be. I give him rope. I give him the opportunity. Every person I give the opportunity to be good. And if at this moment he's good, I judge him b'asher hu sham. This is the redeeming feature of God's gracious kindness that allows us to come back every Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur with a list of things we want to do tshuva for. And guess what? If we take out last year's list, it's almost the same. How come we get away with that? Because Hashem says, Ba'asher hu sham. I look at a person with his sincere conviction to do better next year, to reverse his sins, to live a more positive life in terms of Torah observance. And I judge him by that moment. If he tells me and he declares that he wants to do better and he intends to do better, I don't look to the future. I look only to the present. Says Hashem. I look to the present. When I chose Shaul, Shaul was the greatest person in Israel. His undoing, he didn't have enough backbone, enough chutzpah, let's call it, to defy the demands of the people. Instead of leading the people, he turned out to be a follower of the people. The people said, let Agag live so we can mock him. Let the sheep live so that we can sacrifice. And Shaul listened. The people said, we can't stay put and wait for Shmuel. We're going to get killed. And the army starts to desert him to the point where he has very few soldiers left. He listens to the people and he capitulates, and he does not wait for Shmuel. Whenever Shaul is in a crisis mode and he has to make a tough decision, he follows the people and he does not lead. That was his basic undoing. As he himself, he was a nechpa el hakelim. He was a humble person. He wasn't a strong leader. And as a result, he is undoing. That's his undoing. But at the moment that he was chosen, he could have been the best.
Bibi.
Vayomer Shaul el David. Now Shaul says, I owe David a wife, one of my daughters. I promised to the entire army that whoever would go down and challenge Goliath and defeat Goliath, I would. That's not a bomb, is it?
No.
I would go down, I would give him my daughter's hand in marriage. Time to pay up. Vayomer Shaul el David. Listen to the way he says it. Hine biti hagadola Meirav. Behold, here is my oldest daughter, Meirav. Also aten l'chalisha. I'll give her hand to you in marriage. But stay loyal to me and be a man, a son of valor. You will now be my son-in-law. And wage the wars of God. But Shaul said to himself, Al tihi yodibo. I can't not kill him myself. Tried a couple of times, it didn't work. Usibo yat Plishtim. Let him lead the army, let him constantly fight the Plishtim. Ultimately, they'll probably kill him. I won't kill him. The enemy will kill him. That's what I'll do. I'll give him my daughter. I'll tell him as a result, now you must lead the armies into battle, and in hopes that the army of the Philistine will ultimately strike David. Vayomer David el Shaul. So now David is offered the hand of the daughter of the king. And David says to Shaul, Mi anochi? Who am I that you're going to give me your daughter's hand? Umi chayai, what is my life worth? Mishpachas David b'Yisrael, what is my family? I don't have, I don't have any great yichus. Well, we did, but I don't have any great yichus in my family. Maybe he even alluded to the fact that he came from Rusa, Moavia, the Moabites, the Gioris. I'm not from the distinguished Feinschmeckers. You know what a Feinschmecker is? Feinschmeckers are whoever, they always did like schmaltz. You know what schmaltz is? Serinfense schmaltz. You know what that means? Schmaltz runs from them. They have to have the fanciest chatora with 7 rows of silver. They have to have the fanciest kapota with all kinds of face fur and velvet. And they have to have a big gartel. They have to have long tzitzis, the most beautiful talis, the most beautiful house. They must have when they give a kiddush, you don't need 2 forks, you need 4 forks. It's the Feinschmeckers. So David says, I'm not anybody. What are you picking me? I'm not worthy of being the son-in-law of the king. I know you promised me, your majesty, the daughter of your hand, your daughter's hand in marriage, but let's get real here. I came out of nowhere. I killed this giant, fine. Well, what am I? I'm not, I'm a shepherd boy and I played music.
He knew already he was going to be king.
Okay, but he didn't want to get ensnared in the family of Shaul. It gets very complicated. When you know that you're going to be the next king and your father-in-law is the one you're going to depose, basically, and let me keep away from this. Let me go back to Bethlehem. Let Hashem move mountains to make me king. I don't want to get involved in this, and I certainly don't want to be his son-in-law.
So you are afraid of Shaul after God?
No, he's not afraid of Shaul. He doesn't want to get involved in this terrible family dynamic. So he can give him sorrows. He's gonna have a lot of trouble from this. Go, let Hashem make me the king. Let him take care of putting me on the throne. You think I want to stand in the presence of Shaul or serve Shaul or be his son-in-law and have to know that ultimately I'm going to replace him, and he ultimately knows I'm going to replace him. He hates me. He tries to kill me. I just want to go home. Let God's hand determine my future. I don't want to be involved with this man who seeks to kill me. I don't want to be his son-in-law. I want to live in peace. Okay. Mi anochi, mi chayai, ki I should be your son-in-law. But he teses mera bashol David, but Shaul persisted, and he sent out invitations, and there's a big chasana planned of a royal marriage. The daughter of the king is going to marry the champion of the Jewish people, David. All of a sudden, Meirav says, I don't want to marry David. I want to marry Adriel Hamuchalosi Leish. And she marries somebody else. She preempts her father. She sidesteps this whole proposal that she become David's wife, and she gives her hand in marriage to Adriel, who was Mecholasi, from someplace from Mechola. Now the Meforshim are in disagreement. Was this something that Shaul did? Or was this something that Meirav did on her own? And the majority opinion is that Meirav did this on her own. She said, what does my father think? I'm a piece of chattel? I'm a cow? I'm a camel? I'm going to be sold off to somebody? I'm given away? I want to pick my own husband. And so she picks Adriel.
It was a use at that time.
Okay, that's right. But she was a tough lady, this Meirav. And she sidesteps the king. That's most important. But the next daughter, Vatehav Michal Bashol is David. But Michal falls in love with David. She loves David. Here he is, this young man. I'm sure he was a handsome young man. He was a brave young man of unquestionable skill as a warrior and a leader of the soldiers.
Richard Gere.
Yeah, okay. So she falls in love with David. And now Shaul is stuck. According to the Meforshim that say that Merab just sidestepped the king, he's embarrassed now. Here he set up this whole shidduch. He was going to give his daughter Merab to David. She sidesteps him. She avoids his manipulation, and she outmaneuvers the king and marries this other man, Adriel. So now, Vayomer Shaul. No, but so now Michal tells Shaul, I love David. Ah. Now Shaul says, that's simple. I'll give Michal to David. She will not sidestep me. She's not going to be opposed to the marriage. I can look forward to a straightforward marriage. No more embarrassments. Then it was told to Shaul that Merab loves David. Oh, great. That's Shaul. Excellent. Let's marry her off to David. Vayomer Shaul. So then Shaul says, Et hinena lo, I'll give him, David, the hand of Michal, my daughter, and I'll have a spy in the family of David. My daughter is not going to betray me. My daughter is not going to go against me. She's not going to scheme with her husband to depose me. If David takes any steps to try and a coup and replace me, my daughter will rat him out. I have a daughter here, and also, now that they're married and David is back in, so to speak, in my favor, I'll keep him in his position as the leader of the army, and the Pelishtim will strike him. Now, you understand what this means? It means that the head of the army didn't sit back in the Pentagon and plan the next moves. He was in the battlefield. And just like Baruch Hashem, the great bravery of the commanders of the army of Israel lead the troops in battle, David would lead the troops in battle. He wouldn't just stand behind the lines and say, okay, you go here, outmaneuver them, do this, do that. No, he led the battle. So Shaul says, I'll have an inside track from my daughter Michal. I'll have him lead the army and he'll be up there in front. And ultimately, if there's enough battles, maybe God will strike him. A Pelishti will kill him. Now, what does that mean? Hashem imo, and God's with him. Why does he think the Pelishtim will be able to kill David? This goes back to the question we've talked about, I think, a few times. Can a person, in the exercise of their free will, kill an innocent man or even kill a tzaddik? So Shaul is saying to himself, yeah, God's trying to protect David here and there, but if he's constantly exposed on the battlefield, some Pelishti will want to kill him, and in the exercise of that Pelishti's free choice, ultimately David could be killed. Because God will not interfere with free choice unless it's extreme circumstance. How many times could God save this young man? Ultimately, he'll get killed. Vayomer Shaul. Now here's the first thing that Shaul does. Hetinen alo. Okay. Shaul says, B'shtayim tischateng bi hayom. This is a very strange pasuk. In two will you become my son-in-law today. What is two referring to? Well, we can say two reasons he wants to give his daughter's hand to David. One, because he killed the Pelishti and he owes him a daughter. Two, he wants a spy inside the house of David. Two reasons, he says, I'm giving David to him, but that's not how a lot of the Meforshim learn. They said there were two. I had two daughters, Merab and I have Michal. Okay, Merab didn't work out. She circumvented me, but my second daughter will marry you. And so Shaul issued a command to his servants. Dabru el David balot lemor. Speak to David secretly or politely. And tell him as follows. The king wants you for a son-in-law. And everybody loves you, David. You are a great popular guy. And now get married to the daughter of the king. Become a son-in-law to the king. Remember last time he tried to offer his daughter, Meirav? David says, who am I? So Vayidaber Avdei Shol B'oznei David as a Dvar Me'ela. And so now after Meirav circumvented the king, and now Michal is willing to marry him, and the king wants Michal to marry him, the servants of the king again approach David. Notice the first time Shaul himself approaches David. But David turned him down. That's an embarrassment to the king. So now he doesn't do it personally. He has his servants do it.
Shavia.
Shaliach. Esad Dvarim Ha'ela, the king wants to give you Michal. Vayomer David. David says, Hanikalo ve'einecha hiskatein b'melech. Is this an easy thing? In other words, is this something of course, of matter, of no consequence? I should marry, I should become the son-in-law of the king. But I'm poor, and I'm down, I'm not the Lord, whatever his name was, what was the guy? Okay, I'm not one of these British lords. I don't have a large estate. I'm not rich. I'm a simple person. What do you want from my life? And the servants of Shaul said, they told him that, hey, David is still hanging tough. He doesn't want to marry the daughter. This is the words of David. He's not a item. He's not an aristocrat, let's put it this way. I'm not one of the aristocrats. I'm not one of the important people amongst the nation. David had a sense of humility. Vayomer Shaul, Kol Somru David. Go back and tell David. I don't want, the king, I don't want a huge dowry. You don't have to be rich. I'll tell you how you can pay a dowry for the hand of my daughter, Michal, in marriage. Ki b'meya orlos pelishtim, lehinokeim ba'oivei hamelech. I want you to bring me 100 circumcised orlos from Pelishtim. I want you to kill 100 Pelishtim and circumcise them and bring me the little piece that comes off of the orlo. Well, Shaul figures, here I can get two, maybe I can get rid of him in one fell stroke. I'm going to tell him he has to go kill 100 Pelishtim. The Shaul Chashab, what was Shaul's intent? Why would he make such a crazy demand? Lahapil is David biyat Pelishtim, so that David would get killed in this attempt to bring 100 circumcised orlos from the Pelishtim. Ultimately, somebody's going to knock this guy off, and they figured that and Shaul figured he'd get killed. But the servants of the king came and told David, listen, David, the king doesn't want a big dowry. He knows you're not such an important person, but he knows you're a champion and a soldier. He's giving you an opportunity to defeat enemies of Israel. That's what he wants. You should act as a soldier, defeat 100 Pelishtim and bring their orders. David. Now David says, that sounds good. I am going to serve the nation. I'm going to do a service for my people, not only for the king, but for my people. I'm going to instill fear in the hearts of the Pelishtim, and I'm going to take up this challenge. I'm going to kill 100 Pelishtim.
Kill them.
Kill them.
Not keep taking.
Well, they're not going to let you take their roller so easily. You're going to have to kill them. Below Malu Hayamim. And the king gave him a time period. Let's say the king gave him, I'll give you 6 months, bring me 100 orlos. Below Malu Hayamim, David didn't wait till the time frame expired. He jumped the gun. He went right in and took up the challenge. And Vayokom David, he got right up. Vayelechu v'anoshav, he and his Giborim, him and his men. Vayachba Pelishtim Masayabish. He killed 200. The king said, if you kill 100, bring me their orlos. David went out and killed 200. He doubled the condition of the king. Vayove Davides orloseim, and David brought back their orlos. Vayimalu lamelech l'schatem b'melech. And the king understood, now I've got to go forward and marry off my daughter Michal to the David. Vayitein lo Shaul es Michal bito leisha. And so the king Again, his plan of having David killed frustrated, and he gives the hand of his daughter to David for a wife.
Where was Shmuel waiting?
Where is Shmuel Hanavi? Question mark. Let's hold on, it gets worse. Vayar Shaul, and Shaul sees, Vayeda ki Hashem in David. Now he realizes again, Hashem is really with this young man. Umichal Bashol have also, and my plan to have a spy in the house of David is not working out because Michal loves David. She's not going to betray him. She's not going to be my eyes within the house of David. She loves her husband. She's married to David. By Yosef Shaul wrote, B'nai David owed, and Shaul gets more depressed and more dispirited because of David. Shoel Oyevis David, and Shaul hates David all of these days. Now imagine, Shaul has a son-in-law. The son-in-law is David. Not only is he a champion of the army and very popular, he's now the king's son-in-law. When the king makes a simcha, who sits at the head table? Michal and her husband David. Wherever he turns, David and Michal. He can't escape from David. And now it is haunting him into a deep depression and a paranoia that from which he cannot emerge. Sorry, Pelishtim. And the Pelishtim would regroup now after their terrible defeat, and they start again to attack Israel. David was more successful in deterring them, in defeating them, in blunting them. Mikol Avdei Shaul, from all of the other soldiers in the army of Shaul, Vayikar Shemo Ba'od, and now David's popularity is soaring. And he is becoming the most popular person in the whole country, and all of Eretz Yisrael, all under Malchus Shaul. That is the end of chapter 18. The glorious rise of David, the deep paranoia of Shaul, the inability of the king to either personally kill David or indirectly kill David, and the king is just berserk. He's beside himself. He doesn't know what to do. So now he decides. Pasuk Perik Yutes. Now we're into chapter 19, verse 1. More. Vayidaber Shaul Yonasan. No, and Shaul says to his son Yonasan, they'll call David and to his whole entourage. Muhammad says, David, we need to kill David. We got to figure out a way to kill David. And everybody should know that he's a pretender to my throne. He's going to challenge the next generation. He may even challenge me. But for sure, he's going to challenge my sons. He's going to be the next king. At least he intends to be the next king. And we need to, he's a Morib Mountains. He's a traitor to my kingship, and we need to kill him. But Yonasan ben Shaul chavetz b'David meo. But Yonasan, his son, wants David very much. So what's going on here? In his extreme paranoia, the king does not even realize that Yonasan is willing to step aside for David, and he wants David to live. He doesn't want to kill David. The king is consorting with and consulting with Yonasan. Let's bring about the death of David. And Yonasan is saying, hold on here to himself. What is this guy? What is my father doing? I like David. David has not raised a finger to depose my father. He is certainly loyal to my father. He is loyal to the nation. He's fighting the wars. He's leading our soldiers. What in the world is my father so paranoid about David? Whatever will happen will be b'dei Shemayim. I am not going to kill David. I don't want to be any part of it. Vayagid Yonasan to David. Lamor. And then Yonasan tells them, Mevake Shaul avi lahamisecha. My father is paranoid. He wants to kill you. Vata yishomano. Aboker. You should be careful every morning. Don't join the king for breakfast. Don't come into the councils of the king. Secrete yourself and hide out from the king. He's bent on killing you. Not only is he bent on killing you, he's now so I guess, paranoid in this desire to kill you, that he's enlisting all of his servants. He's enlisting Avner ben Ner, he's enlisting all the other great generals of his army, all the sub-generals, whatever it is. He's now committed to bringing about your death. It's not just you against Shaul, it's you against his whole inner circles. Vani Eitzen, I will go out, V'omadati liyad avi basodeh, asher atar sham, and I will stand next to my father in the field where you will be, hiding and listening. V'ani adaber b'chol avi, and I will speak about you to my father. V'ra'isa, and you will see ma'avi gadatiwa. You'll see what goes on. You'll see the depth of this man's paranoia, my own father. You will see that he wants to kill you. Vayidaber Yonasan v'David tov el Shaul aviv. And then the next day or whatever, sometime later, Shaul and Yonasan are together in the field, outside the house in the front porch or maybe in the lawn, somewhere outside of the house so that what they say can be overheard. When Yadaber Yonasan v'David tov el Shaul aviv, and Yonasan starts to talk about how good David is in the presence of his father to his father. Vayomer elav, and Yonasan says to his father, Al yechta hamelach ba'avdo v'David. Your Majesty, you should not sin against your servant David. Ki lo chatolach, he has done nothing to depose you. The chimasav tov l'chamod, and everything that he does is in service to you, and he's elevating your monarchy. He's defeating your enemies. He's risking his life. He's fighting your battles. What in the world do you have against him? David takes his hands and his life in his hand. And he went down to fight Goliath. And God delivered a great salvation to all of Israel. Roisa, you saw that Batismach and you were happy. Why are you willing to sin by spilling innocent blood? To kill David for no reason. Vayishma Shaul b'kol Yonasan. And Yonasan finds Shaul in a moment of peace, and he listens to the voice of his son Yonasan. Vayishava Shaul, and Shaul takes an oath. Chai Hashem imimus, I swear by God I will not kill him. Now, why didn't he just say, Yonasan, you're right, I'm not going to kill him? Why does he swear he's not going to kill him? Because he knows to violate a shvua is very onerous. He knows to violate a shvua, ki lo yinakeh es asher yisoh es shamo lashov. What does it say in the Ten Commandments? God will not forgive those who swear falsely in his name. So he says, Vayishova Shaul, Chai Hashem, I swear in God's name. In God's holy name, I will not kill David. Because Shaul knows that he lapses into these moments where he wants to kill David. And here he takes a shvua, the most onerous possible statement, to safeguard himself from wanting to kill David, because now he knows if he kills David, not only is he guilty of murder of an innocent man, he's also going to be guilty of violating his shvua, and lo yisa Hashem yisa Hashem lo Hashem. God will not forgive anyone who takes his name falsely. So he swears. And so now Yonasan goes back and talks to David. And Yonasan tells him, I took up for you in front of my father. I convinced him, at least I think I convinced him, not to seek your death. Not only that, but he swore he wouldn't kill you. Yonasan as David el Shaul, and now Yonasan brings back David before his father, before Shaul, and things return to normal. Shaul is able to curb his hatred of David. He's back in control. He's happy that David plays for him and calms him and revives his spirit.
He was an anus.
He was a sick man.
Yeah.
Well, that's the assessment of Chazal too. We say that Shaul is a tzaddik. In the final analysis, he's considered a righteous person. We will see when we learn about his death, what he does He's a great person, Shaul. Unfortunately, is paranoid and dogged by this fear, not so much for himself, but for his children and for his son, Yonasan, who is a great man in his own right. That Yonasan should not be king, that blew Shaul's mind. Okay, we'll stop here a little bit early, 2 or 3 minutes early.